of the university, Professor Richard Madaje, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Teaching and Learning, that is. I must acknowledge Professor Singh as well. I will acknowledge Honorable Togoti Tiza, Minister of the Department of Agriculture, Land Reforms and Rural Development. Mr. Rachidi, Chairman of the University of Limpopo Trust Fund. Allow me also to acknowledge Advocate Bongo, who's here with us, past President of the Convocation of the University of Limpopo. Professor S. Mautu, Satsupe Mautu, Executive Dean in the Faculty of Humanities at the University of Limpopo. Professor Mutiba, Tebo Mutiba, Executive Dean of the Faculty of Health Sciences, the University of Limpopo. Professor Umpimetse Sibanda, Executive Dean of the Faculty of Management and Law at the University, and Professor Hlengani Suweya, Executive Dean of the Faculty of Science and Agriculture at the University. Let me also acknowledge Dr. Muchaki Masipa, who is our Dean of Students, Dr. Aibi Mwepe, our Director of Quality Assurance. I won't be able to cover every member of staff, member of management. Let me reserve the most esteemed greeting for the family of our alumna, the family of Josephine Moshobane. From the brother, Mr. Maripa, to the sisters, to the aunts, to the uncles, to the nephews, to the nieces, to the cousins. Let me acknowledge our men of the clergy here, from particularly ZCC St. Agnes, and I've seen also St. Barnabas. Baruti Barana, we welcome you. I might not have seen members of the traditional leadership of the province. I apologize, and as I go along, I'll continue to acknowledge every one of you. The words that I read, Vice Chancellor, come from the January 8 statement of 1986. Every year the ANC would issue a January 8 statement, and in it, it will declare the year. 1986 was declared the year of Umkhonto we Sizwe, the People's Army. And the reason I mention 1986 is because people like myself, Prof. Mokhalong, you know, we were your students, were hearing this illegally. We were hearing these messages from Radio Freedom. We were hearing these messages in the rooms that were used for political education on this very campus. We were hearing them from people like Peter Mokaba, who were operating from this campus. And we were hearing them from people like Josephine Moshobane, who in the very year 1986, and I want to quote the words of the child of Martin Luther King, Dr. Martin Luther King, who said this year when they were saying, let's commemorate the passing of Dr. Martin Luther King. And the child said, my father did not pass on. He was assassinated. So I want to remind everybody here, Josephine Moshobane did not pass on because of injuries. She was assassinated. I remember very vividly the night vigil we held here. We called it Tiro Square, and the new cinema hall is called Tamikhubusan now Square. But I remember that day vividly, like it was yesterday. Now, as I open this, before we ask everybody to rise for the singing of the national anthem, as we welcome you to the memorial lecture, the second annual Josephine Sarana Moshobane themed servant leadership, 38 years into democracy. I'm going to just ask us to remember the words of Frantz Fanon, who said, colonists don't just steal your land and finish. When they really want to defeat you, they attack your history. Because if your history has been attacked and you don't know what happened to you in the past, it's very easy for me to convince you that you are worth nothing. And I'm talking to you students because Josephine Moshobane was assassinated while she was a student. I'm asking you as we start this lecture that you remember your worth. And the most respectable way to remember your value is to allow no one to attack your history. I'm going to ask that we all rise and we show utmost respect for the national anthem of the Republic of South Africa. I know you might be modern, but if you are a man, please, please take off your hat or cap. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Victor Khomweswana. I'm from the University of Limpopo. I'm in charge of marketing and communication. And to kick off the program, let us ask Pastor Motima Manya to come and lead us in opening prayer. Pastor.
Program Director, the Chairperson of the Council, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Limpopo, the management, the honored guests, and the whole congregation, I greet you. I want to read just one verse from the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 24, verse number 22, and it reads thus: "You shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and therefore I command you to do this thing." And the main idea of this chapter and verse is reflecting on our history, will help us to appreciate our present and soberly chart our future. Program Director, before I pray, I just want to emphasize just a phrase in this verse: remember that you were a slave. What a painful reminder. Who would like to be reminded that he was a slave? If anyone were to stop a loud music at a Friday night party and you just announce from the same PA system and say, remember that you were a slave, that would induce soberness, perhaps dullness in the midst of that jolly night. If anyone were to remind us in our boardrooms as we plan for the year, as we report at the end of the year, how would that impact the way we realize our motto? Even to celebrate our own, to celebrate the gains that we have realized and celebrate the contributions we have made to keep our legacy. And if we're to forget where we come from, we shall take the present for granted. If we forget where we come from, we shall lose our vision of the future. Let's remember where we come from and thank God for the gains we have realized. Let's remember where we come from and thank God for the heroes and the heroines of our struggle who led the way. Let's remember where we come from and serve for a better life for all. Let me pray for all of us. Shall we close our eyes? Our God, we thank you for this country. We thank you for this nation that you have given us through the sacrifices of our forebears. We thank you for both the natural resources and the human potential that you have placed at our disposal, enough for us to live purposefully. We admit to both our limitations, our failures. We need more and more grace for our souls and the soul of our nation to be willing to serve one another. In Jesus our Lord we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Manya. Ladies and gentlemen, now, you know your words about remembering that you are slaves. Do you remember? No. The young ones won't remember. There's a verse for that, Pastor. We'll talk about it later. But for now, we are here at the memorial lecture, the second annual memorial lecture in honor and in memory of Josephine Moshobane. So to set the scene, let us watch a very short documentary, The Lives and Times of Josephine Moshobane.
On behalf of the family of Moshobane, the family of Josephine Moshobane, we would like to thank the University of Limpopo
ne le ngwana o botlhale ene e le ngwana o ratang batho ene a rata go thusa batho ka mokgwa le ka ona. So hwaya ile yena ha ya ko di high school kare o ya boarding school ke mo a ileng Masalana boarding school o tsenetse high school ko Masalana. So ke go ya gae university ka 1982 ile university 1 year, second year abatla monare ma 83 abare monna ma next ne le ngwana o botlhale ene e le ngwana o ratang batho ene a rata go thusa batho ka mokgwa o nang le ka ona. So gwa ya ile yena ha ya ko di-high school ka re o ya boarding school. Ke mo a ileng Masalanao boarding school, o tsenetse high school ko Masalanao. So ke go ya gae university
ka 1982.
ile university 1 year, second year a batla monna re mma 83 a ba re monna mma nne ke joinile mokgatlo
82, yeah. Oh, that's when we arrived. We were the same. And I think Jos was doing social work, if I'm not wrong. And so in the group, we all then belonged to Azazo.
ke dilo tse pedi ke motsisi ha o tšhabe go tshwariwa na ha o tšhabe go gwana a re mano ke tlabe ke gwela bana ba o mpontsha bana ba di-sister tsa hae a re wa bona bana ba tlo phela monate nna le nka ba ke yo mara bona
Yena o na tlhageletse mo le le mone.
Ee.
Yena o boela mo bone.
wa bona hao no ke tsebe gore na what's happening. Josephine ke busy ke into ha tswa di-holidays dikolo di tswalla ha tsena fela ke fitla mo gae ke tsena ke re ha o fitlhile ngwana re ke re moena ha o ke sa o bona go tla ena o bring kwena in ka bo 6 o briwa kena mama le kae ke tlo tja Josephine Pilodia welcome ya bona au welcome tla be se re ba ile.
My view at the time was that survival on campus was better than being at home because you'd be easily napped. So on campus, we then could move from one room to the other until the university was under siege completely because we never used to sleep in one particular room. But the day the university was under siege, they just broke down every wall. And that time, Josephine was in prison and Jabulile as well.
You see, at that time, the rate of activism was very high. To an extent,
to be hanged. As a young academic back then, I was teaching a lot of 19-year-olds at the university, in 86, by the way. Suffice it to say, one had to go through a tough juggling act. On the international front, sanctions were isolating apartheid South Africa on the sporting and cultural fronts. The economy of the country was almost on its knees, leaving it in distress and on the proverbial ropes. That's where it was. 86, apartheid South Africa was grappling with burning reality of internal unrest. The armed struggle was always stubbornly lacking, with apartheid South Africa constantly looking over its shoulders. Isolated, under siege, the government of P.W. Porter reacted violently to maintain what they thought was stability. They even introduced the tricameral department. Those who were there in 84, they know what that meant. This included the declaration of the state of emergency in July 85 and again in June 86. Troops and riot police were unleashed on members of the public. Arbitrary detentions without trial became the norm. This didn't leave the university untouched then, and this didn't leave people like Josephine untouched. The only tragic thing with the 80s, however, was the state itself was an object of injustice and oppression. There was nothing wrong with Josephine. Her views, her conviction, and political activity. An anomaly would have been for her to experience all injustice around her in the 80s and do nothing about it, because omitting to act in the face of injustice is complacency. A young zoology lecturer that I was in '86 when the state of emergency was declared and our campus was occupied by the South African Defence Force. I always tell my other colleagues, principals, that the University of Limpopo, TEFLO, University of the North then, is the only university in the country which was ever occupied by the South African Defence Force. It should tell you what was happening at the university then. Honoring the memory of Josephine and those who were in the trenches with her is also about reflecting on whether all the sacrifices they made were worth it. Josephine was, among other things, inspired by a vision of a free South Africa in which all doors of learning and culture will be open to all. Many others believed in the same thing and pursued the ideal. The difference was that she paid the ultimate price for it. Was that all worth it, judging at what is happening in the country today? The Josephine Moshobane lecture is also an opportunity to mark Women's Month, another special occasion for South Africa to remember the gallant contribution of women to the struggle against apartheid. It is also a platform to acknowledge the family of Josephine and to pay our respects to them for the gift that she was to the world and to our heritage. History has no blank pages, so they say. Josephine Moshobane will forever occupy an important page in the history and heritage of the University of Limpopo, the province, South Africa, the continent, and all humanity. Young women at our university do not have to look far for role models whenever they are faced with adversity, being it gender-based violence or any form of injustice. Hopefully, you will learn a lot from her lives. Today's lecture by our Honorable Minister Togo Didiza, one of the illustrious alumni of the legendary Ohlange Institute in KwaZulu-Natal, is our tribute to the role of women in society. It is an acknowledgement of those women among us who shine their light through their leadership. I thank you all for being part of this memorable occasion and for taking part in building the legacy by one of our own, done by this iconic institution. Thank you, and you are all welcome.
Thank you very much, Prof. And by the way, I have to remind you, when he says young lecturer, He was my lecturer, eh? So yeah, just to put it out there. Please, I'm asking you, especially people seated up in the terrace, do not be talking while you're part of this. It's very important. I wouldn't say this is a solemn occasion, but this is a very dignified ceremony. We are honoring somebody who didn't give us money, who didn't give us food, who didn't give us housing. She gave us her life. And if you have a problem with respecting that, I will respect your right to not be here. But please, for while you're here, I'm asking you, young people, respect this occasion, respect the family of Josephine Moshobane, respect your professors, your management, respect yourself most of all. It's out of the conduct that you give when you're in places like this. You're continuing to talk, my girl. You're continuing to talk. Hey! Let us ask the University of Limpopo Choir, UL choristers, to give us some music. Maybe you'll get the energy going again and reawaken the, remove the cobwebs. Is the choir ready? Unfortunately, you are doing double shift. Where is the Moshobane Residence Choir? Okay, so you are going to alternate. If you don't mind, let's listen to the choir. Thank you very much, UL choristers. At this point, I'm going to ask that maybe you be on standby with about a 45 seconds to 90-second rendition, so that when Professor Mautu introduces the speaker, between her introducing as she steps down, you usher the speaker with some beautiful melodies. Unfortunately, I have to say, the speaker had a medical emergency and she'll be delivering her message virtually. But regardless of that, I would say when Professor Mautu is done with the introduction, please, UL choristers, you can just give us an item, and then I won't come back after. Moshobane Residence Choir, are you listening? When the speaker finishes, to usher her out, I'm going to ask you to be ready with your own item, just one short item. Is that fine? Do we get the running order? When Professor Mautu finishes introducing, UL choristers, you give us 90 seconds or so music to usher the speaker, and when the speaker finishes, I won't come back to stage. You, Moshobane Residence Choir, just give us an item there, and then I'll come after you, your piece. Is that fine? At this point, allow me to please welcome the Executive Dean of the Faculty of Humanities at the University of Limpopo,
Chairperson of Council, Mr. P. Nefolovodwe. Council members present, Chairperson of Student Teaching and Learning, Professor R.N. Madatse, DVC Research, Innovation and Partnerships, Prof. J. Singh, members of the Executive Management, Directors of School, Heads of Department, Moshobane family representatives, Diro family representatives, they are also here, Muruti, and all other invited guests, members of the academic staff, SRC representatives, led by President Mr. V. Magamo, students, ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to introduce the honorable guest speaker for this very important remembrance of one of our striker icons, the selfless, the freedom fighters, the trial and tested comrades. Our guest speaker, it's a member of parliament, serving as Minister of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development in the 6th administration. She has recently been elected as the chairperson of the African Union Ministerial Specialized Technical Committee on Agriculture, Rural Development, Water and Environment. She obtained the following educational qualifications: a Bachelor of Honors from the University of South Africa, a master's degree in tertiary education management from the University of Melbourne in Australia. She served for the following ministerial positions: 1994 to 1999, served as the first woman Deputy Minister of Agriculture during the late President Nelson Mandela's tenure. 1999 to 2004 was appointed as Minister of Agriculture and Land Affairs. 2004 to 2006 continued in the same portfolio as Minister of Agriculture and Land Affairs, and it was during this term of office that she convened the National Land Summit in 2005, involving a wide range of stakeholders to reflect on South Africa's land reform policies. In 2006 to 2008, the Honorable was appointed as the Minister of Public Works. For other career positions and activities, the Honorable was re-elected as a Member of Parliament in the 5th administration and appointed as the House Chairperson for Internal Arrangements. In 2016, she was elected as the Chairperson of the Commonwealth Women Parliamentarians Africa region. Prior to becoming an MP, she worked in a number of organizations in various capacities, such as Legal Secretary at Mafika Mbuli, Program Officer at Diaconia. 1989 to 1992 was Youth Coordinator of South African Council of Women Christian Association for the Youth. 1992 to 1994 was the Secretary General of the Women's National Coalition that produced the Women's Charter of Effective Equality, which was tabled in the first Parliament of South Africa. 2005 was the young global leader named by the World Economic Foundation. In 2011 to 2014 was the project consultant at the University of South Africa responsible for the establishment of the Archie Mafetche Research Institute on Applied Social Policy. As a board member, the Honorable serves on the board of Thabo Mbeki Foundation and Ohlanje Institute. In politics, she has served as a member of the National Executive Committee and National Working Committee of the African National Congress from 1997 to 2007 and was re-elected in 2012 to date. Please, let us all welcome the Honorable Angela Thokozile Didiza, Minister of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development.
Chairperson of Council, Mr. Pandelani Nefolovodwe, members of the University Council, Vice Chancellor and Principal, Professor Mahlo Mahalong, and members of the University Management, the Moshobane family and friends, SRC President Mr. Vincent Makamu, and members of the SRC, students, staff, and other members of the university community, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, comrades and friends. Allow me to greet you today and indeed express my gratitude to you for having chosen me to be your speaker today. It is indeed an honor and privilege that one has to reflect on the life of Josephine Moshobane. It is befitting that the university has chosen to celebrate her life during the Women's Month, where we honor and celebrate the role that women played in the struggle for liberation in our own country. The story of women's struggles is about courage, bravery, commitment, and triumph. Women were and still are an integral part of the formation of our liberation movement, as well as our transformation. They were also at the heart of many struggles, such as those against land dispossession and pass laws, among others. It is important to appreciate that women endured triple oppression, whose remnants we still fight to this day. Women were oppressed in terms of their race, gender, as well as custom. The genesis of racism meant that black women, and in particular Africans, were subservient to others. This identity in terms of race impacted not only on women but also men. Gender discrimination was also evident in that women's economic contribution was not valued. The reward in the form of wages or those who were salaried as professionals was also lesser than those of men, even for the same work. It is for this reason that part and parcel of women's struggles in our own country, in our continent, and globally has always been about equality, in particular equal work for equal pay. Thirdly, patriarchy intertwined with some of our cultures meant women are regarded as minors, not as equals to men. After 1994 early, in terms of the Marriage Act, a lot of women were still regarded as minors. This will manifest in a range of ways, including women's access to land. As we all know, majority of African women would access land through being married to their husbands, or when they are not married and have children and they are seen to be an irritant amongst their community or their family, they are then given the land in order to feed their children. In honoring and remembering Josephine, we are compelled to reflect on the struggles waged by youth and students of our country as an academia in creating a space for reflecting on our history and those of others, through which we learn and sharpen our strategy and tactics as we encountered the then apartheid regime. The enlightenment that came through scholarship within our universities meant young students had to think minds was and remains critical at the affirmation of who we are as a people. We will also remember that student activism has always been there. This has led to young people to form their organizations as vehicles for waging struggles that were informed by their lived experiences as students, but also as members of society. The National Union of South African Students, commonly known as NUSAS, was established in 1924 as a union mainly representing white South African students. Although membership was open to all, the needs of black students were not a priority. In 1968, however, black students led by Stephen Bantuliko, Bani Nyameko, Pichana, Herine Wenkulu, Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, who is our current chancellor of this university, Tela Lekote, and even our chair of council, and many others broke away from New SARS to form the South African Students' Organization, commonly known as SASO. It was in the University Hall in 1972 when Uncle Potsetiro, the SRC president of this university and member of SASO, delivered what came to be known as, I quote, the Teflon testimony, close quote. It is also worth noting that the first inaugural conference of SASO was held in this university in 1969. The generation of students that formed SASO understood that they are not only championing the struggle of black students, but the liberation of the entire nation. If one reflects on the cohort of the leadership of the students of that time, they were very determined in using education as a tool for liberation. They educated themselves and their peers and used the clarity of knowledge to advance the struggle for freedom. They also knew that as citizens of an untransformed, undemocratic South Africa, they had a duty to make their contribution to the struggle for liberation. It was therefore not surprising that many of them formed part and parcel of the Black Consciousness movement. We will know that some of them actually joined some of the liberation movements that were banned, such as the African National Congress and the Pan-Africanist Congress. SASO, continuing its mobilization work amongst black students and raising consciousness amongst society, was actually critical. This work drew more attention not only of the oppressed masses but also of the then regime, which finally banned SASO in 1977. At this time, some students had already been detained and others left for exile to pursue the struggle for freedom. The consciousness did not die nor got suppressed. Instead, it grew. A new baby was formed in 1979, known as Azania Student Organization, commonly known as Azaso. This student formation mobilized students in higher education across the country. Whilst advancing students' issues, they also led in articulating issues of the oppressed masses of our country. Azaso became the nerve center and overseas of revolutionary ideas for young heroes and heroines who were advancing the struggle against apartheid at the time. Tefluo, as this university was called, became the attraction for many students across South Africa. At the same time, it became a refuge of newly released political prisoners who became influential in advancing the struggle for freedom. Today we're here because one of our own, Josephine Moshobane, became a member of Azaso and was active in the life of the organization in all aspects. Moshobane was not just a member of SASO, but was in its local leadership within this very university. As well, she was involved in underground work, being in touch with those who were already in exile time and again. Through her activism and the responsibility she had in the organization, there were times when she had to leave the country for coaching and other training in order to equip herself and others to advance the struggle. Josephine was part of the generation of young people that were inspired by the call of the then president of the African National Congress, Oliver Tambo, when he said, I quote, "We must render South Africa ungovernable and make apartheid system unworkable," close quote. Through her work, Moshobane got arrested. Oliver Tambo, when he said, I quote, "We must render South Africa ungovernable and make apartheid system unworkable," close quote. Through her work, Moshobane got arrested in 1985 and subjected to horrendous and inhuman conditions in prison under the notorious Internal Security Act of 1982. Like many of our martyrs, Josephine paid with her life so that me and you can be free. Josephine may not be in any annals of history of the book or the books about the struggle for freedom in South Africa, but she lives in our hearts and in our memory. It is therefore befitting that the University of Limpopo is memorializing her life in order to keep her memory alive among us and the students who will come and learn and acquire knowledge in this university where she cut her political teeth and finally made a contribution to the struggle for freedom. Any nation, in order to advance in its future, must always know its history. Today's lecture is a window from which we can look at our past and understand our present. Though Josephine and many of her peers and those that went before or even after her gave us this freedom, we remain conscious that the journey of transformation is not complete. We acquired political freedom, and now we have to win economic and social emancipation. One thing we learned from Josephine's life is that it takes determination, commitment, and sacrifice to change what is evil. We therefore cannot betray their hard-won struggle. We need to appreciate that the struggle for equality that she and many activists fought for has at least been managed to be put in our constitution, the highest law in our land. We have also been able to ensure that one of the institutions that support democracy in addressing the issues of gender in our society was also put in place. That institution is commonly known as Commission for Gender Equality. It is also instructive to know that this did not just come about on its own, but because of the struggles of many women. Many legislations have also been put in place to make the life of our women better. However, as we all know, women remain vulnerable and unsafe in their homes and in society. It is this struggle of gender-based violence and femicide that we must continue to wage as this society. It is the struggle in partnership with the boys and men of our country that we need to win together. Josephine and her peers struggled for a democratic, non-sexist, prosperous South Africa. The institution of democracy and the reconstruction of our country has taken root, but more remains to be done. Access to education is now a given. It does not mean if you come from a working class family, you cannot attend school. Children in public school even receive food in order to ameliorate hunger. Children who are actually younger than 6 can get access to free health care in our public clinics and hospitals. Pregnant mothers can actually be treated for free in our public institutions. Many who did not have access to houses and human settlement, today they've got it, and some have seen those of their own receiving such. Maybe not enough for everyone, but indeed the journey we're traveling can show the possibilities of the rainbow at the end. NSFAS, though not enough, has made it possible for many students to enter university and colleges. I may not indicate each and every stride that we too who are here as witnesses of a newly South African society, we can know. It shows we have walked some mile, but more still remains ahead. It is this 300 years plus of dispossession and oppression that we have to fight. In this journey, I must say, we've had setbacks, some of which are not of our making, but were external shock, not from what we might have done. but some have arisen out of our failure in other areas. Acknowledging this reality means, as a democratic state and as a people, we're willing to learn and improve on our capacity to do better. The hosting of BRICS in the past week, hosting about 66 nations, is just but one example that shows that as South African, we are capable and we have the wherewithal to do even better. As we improve our capacity and our capability to do better as a people and as a state, we do so because the memory of Josephine reminds us that what they fought for has not only been accomplished, and as such, we can never betray the noble struggle they waged. I thank you.
Limpopo, which is now, the University of the North then, now it's the University of Limpopo. On behalf of the family, I would like to honor our late sister by explaining to you on how and why she became a role model in the family. She was the first in the family to enroll with the University Institute in the 1980s. She played a leadership role from an early age, and she was never scared to stand for what she believed in. She used to convey the unity within our family. Josephine had a zero tolerance for white supremacy, fought for white supremacy and fought for it when she got the opportunity to do so. During the apartheid times, black people were denied freedom in so many an extent that Josephine did not want her family to know her life of fighting for freedom. She knew our parents were, I hope you know why, because they were fearing of death, arrest, and, losing their daughter after they strive to educate her in an extent to be in a university. Her death inspired the family members to join in the struggle. Hence, even the mother was also involved in liberating this country. For the kind of a person Josephine was, our late parents had so many expectations from her, because indeed there was so much she could do, not only in politics, but also in career of being a social worker. Many other great things she was capable of doing. Today we console ourselves that Josephine did not die. She has multiple in this way. After being one of the family's member to enroll with the University Institute in the 80s, we now have several members from our family who graduated from this university, and many other universities across the country. It is now about 36 years that she it's about 36 years that now that she died. Josephine's mother, Miriam Moshobane, also a stalwart in the political struggle for South Africa, died in 2020 during the COVID pandemic. May her soul rest in peace. She was supposed to be one of us in this, but unfortunately because of death, took her. In our first, the inauguration of this, we were with her, and it's most unfortunately, she couldn't make it through this pandemic. And also people who were here, and our niece, Moshobane, they were here when the inauguration of this Josephine memorial lecture was held in this university. May their soul continue to rest in peace. And we wish you continue to do that in the coming years. To get the truth about what transpired during the time when Josephine was in prison at Johannesburg prison, and we wish that maybe the university can help us to maybe to visit that prison and let them show us where she was held, and maybe we can get it closer, because the last time we were here, we did present a memorandum which it doesn't help, because we up to now there's nothing going on. So we wish through the University of the Limpopo, can we, as a family, get a closure about how our sister was, who killed our sister, or how she was treated at the university, at the Johannesburg prison. There is a part that really pained our family a lot during the time when our sister was arrested. We understand that the police, they came here with Josephine while she was still under arrest and paraded her in this yard of the university to show other students that if you continue with struggle, you will look like her. That was a painful part, because remain. And I hope the the young people of today will take the baiting that our sister started it and go on with it to inspire the people to be educated and to learn about the past. Oh, shit. Yeah, ne. Right, I've got one of our family member also who would like to say something about Josephine. Can you allow Osmadiepe to come and say something about Josephine? Right. I will thank you. Thank you.
Don't worry. Don't worry, brother. Dumelang. Realocha. Tobela. Ke felela gona mo wa ke sa kgona go tswela pele. Yeah, I'd like to acknowledge the program director, council chairperson of the University of Limpopo, Mr. Pandelani, and all protocol observed. I feel so honored that honored and grateful that my family felt that I must also say something. I hope I'm going to represent them well. Family, I won't embarrass you. I also want to emphasize how grateful we are about this university. That to remember our family member, among others, who fought against all odds for the benefit of the better South Africa. Sekhana is my sister. I'm the big sister. Our mothers were sisters. So I know her very well from infancy. I still remember when she was a toddler, she used to suck her thumb and rolled her eyes. And I never thought, Tori, one day, you know, Rato Chajabana, I never thought Josephine could be a freedom fighter. I thought maybe, no, let me not get there. My name is Trifina Mabiletsa. Trifina Mabiletsa. But just because I'm in Polokwane, ke gapeletšega gore sefane se ke se change ke re Mabiletsa. Why? Because when we are in Rome, do what the Romans do. Ke lemogile gore mo Polokwane di SJ di lokelwa di kepisana. Bjalo le nna ke loketse kepisi mo le ke Mabiletsa. Fela le tlhokomele bana, ha se di ka moka tse di lokelwang di kepisa. O tla feleletsa gore basadi ba ditebe tse dintšhi ba shepela kudu. That is wrong. Di kepisi tse o na le mo di tsena le mo di sa tseneng. All right, ne ke rata fela go ntsha botlhoko after video eleki, I was touched. Today is and the legacy of Sekgana, our beloved sister, our beloved cousin, nephew, niece, whatever, who was brutally assassinated at the age of 25. During his 3rd year of studying. And we wonder as a family, where will she be? Yeah? She loved unity. She'll always gather the family and say, family, unity is power. Let's unite. Especially my grandmother. My grandmother died and said, Maporisa, the sound of a gun, even the cricket. Hi, gun. Because she was still alive, so there were South African defense, it was bad. But what can we say? Sekgana, we are proud of you today. What I like, after the pain, now today we are smiling. Today we are proud of Sekgana because she has planted a seed, and the struggles that she was in and others, you are benefiting them. Even though it's not everything, but at least you can benefit. It's like Moses, those who know the Bible. Moses led the Israelites to Canaan, but he could not reach there. He could not see the honey and the milk that they were promised. So Sekgana and the others, the Biko, the Tiro, and so many, they struggled, they fought for us, but they are gone. They did not enjoy what they fought for. My speech is very short, don't worry. She has left a mark that will always be remembered by our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, the students, everyone. But Puchisoki, question here, how do you want to be remembered when you did fast? What do you do? Did you ever ask yourself that question? What am I doing on earth? By the way, I forgot to tell you that I acquired BA in Christ at the unknown university. I measured with forgiveness and love. So, don't be surprised when I quote some of the scripts from my books. Genesis 1 verse 28, God said, God created man in his image and said, go and multiply. God is very happy. We have multiplied, we have increased. The earth is full. we have multiplied. But the second one, are we fruitful? Out of 10%, how many are fruitful? Are you fruitful? If not, why? Why are you not fruitful? When God created us, He used the principle of scarcity. You know something that is scarce, the economist says that. Something that is rare, it means it has worth, it has value. So, all of us, when we were born, were given wonderful gifts, talents, because each and every one is a unique individual. You are not the same with me. I have mine, you have yours. It will be so boring. Now my question is, this is my second question. Have you explored your purpose? Have you put action into your purpose? Are you living your life to the fullest? The wealthiest places on the planet are the cemeteries. The people who did not untap their powers, people who had hidden powers, people who had unused success. Barobetse le ditalente tsa bona. But Sekgala, Josephine, my sister, lived her life to the fullest, and she died empty. Sekgala, we are proud of you as family. Uri dirile batho, gara batho. Truly, truly, you died for the next generation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. They say, if you don't remember somebody out loud, they die twice. So let us continue to remember Josephine Moshobane. Let us continue to talk about her. Let us continue to remember and appreciate. And when we appreciate the family, because I might stand here and say, because I was a student here in 1986, I lost a comrade. Somebody might say, I lost a classmate. Somebody might say, I lost a friend, but they lost a family member, a sister, a daughter. That cuts even deeper. So for them to allow us to continue to share the memory is highly appreciated. Thank you very much to the family of Josephine Moshobane. And I'm hoping that the young people here are beginning to appreciate, bit by bit, what it took to get to where we are. 1986 was not a joke on this campus. All right, we were in this hall from morning until 5 p.m. Yes, if you didn't have a class, you were forced to be in here. The soldiers were blocking the entrances. You wouldn't be allowed to stay in hostels unless you were in class, in the library, or in here. That continued for 6 months. Yeah? So when you protest, I see you. Remember that there was a time, I heard the young people sing about Josephine. Just saying you knew Josephine Moshobane was enough to get you killed. Now, isn't it nice when you can sing songs about her and you know nothing will happen to you? Isn't it beautiful to be able to associate yourself freely and know that nothing will happen to you? So remember that when you enjoy the freedoms that you enjoy. I'm asking you to just pay tribute, just show the respect by remembering that what you take for granted was not always something you could take for granted. Freedom was not free. It cost injuries, it cost disabilities, it cost lives. Lives of people who were just as young as some of you are. She died at 25. Steve Biko died at 30. Onkgopotse died at 26. Are you following what I'm saying? Some of you are over 25, some of you are over 26. You are lucky already, you have exceeded, you have broken the record of Josephine Moshobane. But we are remembering her because we appreciate that in order for you to enjoy the freedom you enjoy, she was willing to pay what we call the ultimate price. Steve Biko said it is better to die for an ideal that will live than to live for an ideal that will die. You can kill the dreamer, but you can't kill the dream. We move on with our program. We're going to have UL choristers to usher the president of the SRC. Yeah. I can't believe this. But yeah, I've accepted it. No, I can. Okay. For the visitors who don't understand what the hissing is about, hissing is the sound that a snake makes. So a dog barks, a donkey brays, a cat mews, a lion roars, a snake hisses. So that's why they say this young man somehow decided to call himself Viper, the snake of the north. We Vincent Makam, where is he? Okay, let's have the choir usher him. I will stick with the Lion of the North, my Vice Chancellor. Anything else, I'm sorry. Snakes? Not in a million years. When they're done, Vincent Makam will be speaking as SRC President, and I'll come back to take the program further. Thank you very much.
Siyaya, siyaya, noma besidubula, besishaya, besibupha, noma amandla, awethu, amandla, awethu, pele pele kabaethote pele pele, pele pele kabaethote pele pele. Long live the undying spirit of Josephine Moshobane. Long live. Long live the undying spirit of Sinisi Mashinini. Long live. Long live the undying spirit of Peter Mukaba. Long live. Long live the undying spirit of President Khuputsi Tiro. Long live. Amandla. Awethu. Thanks very much. It's unfortunate. We love to speak without any fear of any intimidation, contradiction from anybody or anything. Today marks the last day of the month of August, which was Women's Month. And I'm very much happy to form part of this memorial service where the celebration and the closure of the month of Women's Month, it is in us remembering the life of Josephine Moshobane. And in Teflop currently today is the last day of me serving as your SRC president. Thanks very much. I know that those ones wanted me to come back, but a leader must know when to leave a stage. You saw the people who did their part, then they left the stage. The likes of Josephine did their part, they didn't leave the stage, they were taken away from us. But however, let's allow the incoming SRCs to come and deliver without compromising the students at large. Because the students which we are here today, we are the beneficiary of the lifespans of Josephine Moshobane. We are the people when she said, as I quote, "My death shall be the victory of the future generation." We are the future generation. But however, the future which we were promised and the future which he died for, we are not yet there yet. We are not going to hide behind the tables in terms of speaking the current status quo in the universities of South Africa. When Josephine Moshobane and her comrades fought against the apartheid regime, the battle was simple. The enemy was somebody who was not sharing the same melanin with them. It was easily detected by the color of the skin that these are the enemies. These are the oppressors. These are the white monopoly capital which keep on liquidating and oppressing the black majority. That was easy. But the current problem we are having as the youth is that the enemy is now having the same melanin with us. The enemy is now sitting in the so-called government which our forefathers, Khuputsi Tiro, Josephine Moshobane, Tshetsi Mashinini, have died for. The enemy today is our parents. The enemy today is our own government. That the children of South Africa today at the universities, they are being subjected to the so-called direct payment, just to start my introduction. We've spoken about it. When we speak about the injustice of the direct payment, I call it a premature system which we have been imposed into. The government then wrote a letter from the NSFAS headquarters saying that a particular SRC president is inciting violence because I was speaking without any fear of any contradiction or intimidation that we are not ready. We are not ready to be subjected to the new system But however, today I'm not here to speak about myself. I'm here to honor the legacy of Josephine Moshobane. Allow me to start saying that when you are a leader, it is within your shoulders that your life stops to exist. I'm sitting here today with 343 texts of the students who are being subjected to the mediocrity of direct payments and stuff like that in the sector of Department of Higher Education. Sometimes I cry to my boys, not particularly crying tears, telling my deputy president that, Floyd, do you sometimes ask me, Viper, what do you want? Because day in, day out, the call I get and the text I get is, President, I want this. President, I want this. President, my problem is that. President, my problem is that. And it is within my responsibility as I'm occupying the office, not of power, but the office of responsibility, to make sure that I execute with everything in me that we deliver to the students. I believe this is the same notion when Josephine went back home and she told her parents that I have joined political organization. She knew that if ever it wasn't of her, then there was nobody else who was going to do it. That's what takes a leader, not to hide behind somebody else scared saying that, no, you go and do it. Be the first one at the line of defense that should a bullet come, let it take me first. Because I cannot succumb to the injustice. Comrade Director of Marketing spoke about Comrade Bantu Steve Biko saying that he rather die for the idea which shall live than him to live for the idea which shall die. And he then said, I would rather die on my boots than for me to live on my knees. That is a general state of a true leader. That leaders whom we had back in the days, our fathers, grandfathers, who fought for the so-called freedom, have determined and prepared to put their bodies at the forefront that if even it's not going to benefit me, it must benefit somebody else. That was the state of Josephine Moshobane. When she went back home, denouncing her family, lying to the parent or not giving them full information that I am going to form part of the activism forum. I'm also going to form part of the freedom fighters, because she was scared of how the mother is going to receive. It is very much painful to them, Josephine Moshobane's family, that one of your own, whom you didn't dream that one day you are going to bury her at the age of 24, decided to leave the family, but to go and serve the country at large. Because should have been in your power, you are going to tell her that, my daughter, I know you want to do it, but I didn't bring you to this country for you to go and be the servant of the country. I want you to go and obtain your education. Even through during that time of the apartheid regime, whatever you're going to settle for was going to be better and was going to change the family status quo. But however, she then went on without your go-ahead or your approval that I'm going to stand up for the black majority of the country. We are here today to honor the life of Josephine Moshobane and to also come to give the status quo of the current politics. What Josephine Moshobane has died for, some of them have been achieved. We are here today, most of us were funded by NSFAS, which back then was not there. I believe NSFAS was started in 1993, if not 1994. You'll correct me, those ones who are old enough. That the South African majority, which are the poor working class, they must also obtain education without paying any fee. This was the adoption of the Freedom Charter. The Freedom Charter which got Bantu Stephen Biko killed for fighting for. And we are ready here as the youth of the current South Africa, that the injustice perpetuated and promoted by now one of our own is going to come to an end. We are going to keep on fighting, carrying the name of Josephine Moshobane, saying that long live to the undying spirit of Josephine Moshobane. She fought the most brutal regime, the white apartheid racist regime, which when they saw a black person, they saw an enemy which didn't deserve to live or didn't deserve to obtain an education. But however, the spirit of Josephine Moshobane will continue guiding us. The spirit of Josephine Moshobane will continue guiding or paving the way of what we must then achieve as the dreamland, as the youth of the country. We are not going to take long here because I can see people have been here, and it's almost 1 or 2 o'clock in fact. We must go for a lunch. But however, what I want to say to the family of the Josephine Moshobane is that what your daughter has died for, we acknowledge it. We will always carry the name Josephine Moshobane. As the University of Limpopo have even named a particular residence there, that it must always remain Josephine Moshobane. But to the Vice Chancellor of the university, I will then want to say that when Josephine Moshobane was assassinated by the apartheid regime, you were a staff member at this university. By the time you were a lecturer in 1986. Let us then go and make sure that we don't just remember the name of Josephine Moshobane by coming here. I have been to a lot of universities where when I walk in, I see the statues which reflects apartheid oppression in other universities. The statue of Nkhupuzi Tiro, which day in, day out we praise, we don't see it in our university. And today, the so-called hall there, which we back then we used to call it La Plua, it still have the narrative written in Afrikaans. We must then go and abolish that narrative written in Afrikaans there. We must then go and erect a statue as a symbol of Josephine Moshobane. We must then go and erect a statue of Nkhupuzi Tiro as our history. The history which as the black community we appreciate and we want to live amongst it. I'm sure that there's no black individual who want to wake up one day and praise Botha. There's no black individual who want to walk and see a statue of Botha and say like this individual have done something, because those statues don't reflect our history. They only reflect oppression. So to the Vice Chancellor and the management, this is a task as I'm leaving the SRC office. Please see it within yourself that you go and mobilize resources, that we erect a statue of Josephine Moshobane. You erect a statue of Nkhupuzi Tiro. This hall is called Nkhupuzi Tiro Hall. But nobody from this generation knows what Nkhupuzi Tiro looked like physically. So it will be fair enough to the Nkhupuzi Tiro family that when they come here, they see a statue of Nkhupuzi Tiro reflecting in this hall, which we call it Nkhupuzi Tiro Hall. To the former president of convocation, President Bongo, I know with your political influence, you can make it happen before the term of the Vice Chancellor comes to an end. Because this must be a commitment of us here today, that when we leave here, we must not just go and speak and print T-shirts, which they're not even going to last the student for 5 years there. Those shirts are going to have the Josephine Moshobane's picture removed there, because they'll be watching it, wearing it every day because they love Josephine Moshobane. But we want a statue of Moshobane here. We want a statue of Tiro here. And in closure to the student of University of Limpopo, I want to say thanks for honoring this invitation from Marketing and Communication, and as your SRC president until the new elected president. It was very much honored to serve with you. You're an understanding group of students, and you knew when you are having problems, whom do you run into? Amandla! Awetho! Amandla! Awetho! Kubi, kubi yo! Siyaya! Siyaya! No ma bese tobola, besi bopa, saya no ma, kobe yo, seaya, no ma bese tobola. Besi bopa, Amandla. Awethu. Thanks very much.
Can the snake of the north can hiss, eh? Thank you very much, Vincent. Thank you very much, Mr. President. I like the fact that you're talking Hall of Fame here. I like the fact that you're talking about immortalizing these names, ensuring that they are never forgotten. But don't go and remove history, man. Add pages to the book. All right. Add pages to the book. In 1994, Rwanda lost about 1 million people in 100 days. 1 million people in 100 days. It means a day they were losing about 1,000 people for 100 days straight. So when they came to 1994, July the 4th, streets were lined with bodies. And every year on April the 6th, because that's when the genocide started, they show videos of the killing. They call it Kwibuka, the campaign. And the reason they say is we are remembering, we are doing this so that, not to seek revenge, but so that we never forget, so that we never repeat what happened. So I agree with you, we must immortalize the right kind of figures, we must immortalize the right kind of figures, but don't forget, Pastor Manya said, don't forget you were slaves. If you remove all traces of slavery, one day they're going to say, what are you complaining about, Vincent? You've always said it great. But I agree with you that we must immortalize the right people and have the right symbols that people can look up to and remember. Thank you very much for honoring the spirit of Comrade Josephine Moshobane. We're going to ask the choir to usher, this time the Moshobane Residence Choir, right? Yeah, don't be stretching while I say start singing. Stand up and be ready to sing. We are going to welcome a former student activist himself, and I don't think you can ever say a former activist, can you, Chair? An activist is an activist is an activist. So he was a student here in the 70s, in the 1970s, and he was a student leader in his own right. He's a contemporary of some of the people we are singing about. So let's welcome, please, to give his own tribute, but on behalf of the Council of the University of Limpopo, Mr. Pandelani Nefolobode, who is the chairperson of the Council of the University of Limpopo. Okay, Josephine Moshobane Residence Choir, give us something energizing and energized so that the chair can deliver his tribute. Thank you very much.
Josephine, see you, and bringing service to the need. I paid the price with my life. With my life, I paid for freedom. Freedom of studying under the apartheid regime. With my life, I freed my people from racial oppression and exploitation. It was a destiny burning like a skin sensation. Tortured, manhandled, and beaten to memory loss. I failed to recognize my relative. Held in solitary confinement, I remain a fighter for my people. For my death shall remain the victory of future generations to come. I am Josephine Moshobane.
Good afternoon, everybody. Mine is a very short presentation. I've been asked to represent the University of Limpopo Council and the work they are doing for this university. But because we are here today as part of the celebration of Josephine, and also as the end of the month, which is the month dedicated by our country and us as a people to honor women. Now, the first thing that I want to start with is to acknowledge the family. I have met almost every member today. I was very privileged to meet every member of the family. And when the video was playing, and there was a narrative which said Aubrey Mukwena came and fetched Josephine at some stage or the other. It then immediately reminded me of the fact that that Aubrey Mukwena they are talking about was with me here. We were in the same SRC. He was my president of the SRC. And that we worked together even after Josephine's family. Later you will hear from one of my colleagues as to what really started this thing of honoring Josephine. I would like my colleagues really to tell everybody that some of us, wherever we are, it really doesn't matter whose child you are. If there is something that you have done for the liberation of our people, we will honor you. It really doesn't matter. I know in our country there are others who, if I don't come from your family or I come from that family, they will refuse to honor a person who has actually come to uplift the dignity of black people. So we are honoring this young lady who died very, very young because the single most thing that she did was to stand up and say, I am going to be counted with all the other people. It doesn't matter. I'm not surprised, family members, that she didn't tell you what she was doing. I did the same. Bongo, I think, did the same, if I'm not surprised. So all of us did the same. The real reason why we did so, that I am in the underground, I am doing that to the family, because those days, once you say so, all your families were regarded as terrorists. And therefore, anytime, they would arrest them one by one. So when you join the struggle then, you will keep your family away. That was a form of protection. Although family members, some of them later complained, so you should also have told us. We wanted also to be part. But from our side, as young activists, we wanted that never to be known because it meant death. One particular important thing I want to mention, again from the speech of the Honorable Minister Toko Didiza. Minister Toko Didiza does indicate there that she joined Azaso, which was actually an organization that was formed by Azapo then. But here is a single thing which you can identify with anybody who joined during those days. It was the liberation of the mind. Because our concept was that if you are dehumanized as a black person, if you are completely made a non-being, and you feel so, in order for you to stand up, we needed to go on educating you up until you are able to see clearly that, as the Reverend was saying, that I am also an image of God. It's not easy. During those days, it was not easy even to realize that you were made in the image of God. So our job was to liberate the mind so that it can come to know I am just like God, and therefore I am not going to stand the nonsense that these white people are doing against me. That was Josephine and all of us. So I'm not surprised when the family says in the video that Aubrey came to fetch her. Aubrey came to fetch her. I know Aubrey wanted to educate. Well, we used to call it to conscientize, to make people realize that they are also human, and therefore they must not stand the nonsense that is there. Allow me now to move to the next issue. And when I move to the next issue, I want to quote one of the people that the younger generation, you must make a habit to read the person I'm going to quote, his books. The person I'm going to quote is Frantz Fanon. Now, this relates particularly to Josephine. He says, each generation must discover its mission, fulfill it, or betray it. So if you will take that, it says each generation. Now for the youth you are a generation which must discover your mission. You can either fulfill it or you can betray it. That's up to you. And I think the SRC president was actually telling you exactly that. You either fulfill it or you betray it. If you want true freedom, right? Never mind what we, the older generation, has done. Never mind. Just be thankful that you have got some of the things that we fought for. But if you believe that the freedom the older generation has fought for has not actually made you to reach that final fulfillment, don't betray your struggle. Josephine discovered that mission very, very early during her student days. And together with the other students, she engaged in a journey to fulfill that mission. And she died whilst she was on that journey of fulfilling that mission. She understood the aims and objectives. I know you younger generation, you do read what the older generation has done, and therefore Josephine did exactly the same. One of the things that when you read all the books, it doesn't matter which books you read, and you are asked a question, what was the fundamental issue that started the African National Congress, for instance? You will realize there as you read that the thing that made the African National Congress to be formed was the question of the land. It was not particularly, it was formed centrally. These other things, isms and isms we are talking about, was not really there. It was because those who formed it felt that, hey, this land belonged to African people. And that they had realized that that land is not under the auspices of the African people. So they formed an organization to resist those who were taking the land for themselves. So if you younger generation have not actualized that concept of getting your land, don't fear to tell the older generation that, hey, we are going to get it. Because land by itself, if I may use this opportunity, it's an asset of any geographic entity called country. If you have got a geographic entity called country, it can be Zimbabwe, it can be Namibia, but if we have our own geographic entity called South Africa. Now, that geographic entity has got what you call assets for the people who live in it. One of the assets is land, while other assets are minerals. And therefore, if you want assets that can feed you, that can better your life, those assets must be protected and must be made available to increase the lives of the inhabitants. So Josephine understood that that must be the cornerstone of the struggle. You might remember Josephine grew up in Soweto also. And if you go to Soweto now, those who have, it is still the same as during the time of Josephine. They told you Josephine died in 1986. And just go to Soweto and say, hey, I want to see what is it that is different from 1986. Very little you can ever count. But is that freedom? Because freedom means to take people from point A to point B even when you are taking them from point A to point B, you must make sure that their quality of life from point A to B can be traced, that it has gone higher. That's what we are fighting for, nothing more than that. So Josephine understood that she had even to hide that she's fighting for the things I'm telling you about. Now, she also knew as a woman, however the age, that women in our society, even today, they are really, really the most oppressed. If you were to come and ask me and say, in South Africa, who are the most oppressed? Me, I will tell you, are women of South Africa. Here in South Africa, I'm not talking about the world. They are oppressed because this is not just a small struggle for them. It has been there from time immemorial, where men have usurped the powers of things that matter. They determine the destiny of women. And to some extent, here I'm not going to be very easy talking. And I want just to, this is a challenge to women. To some extent, I get worried as a person that women tend themselves to discourage the struggle of women to overthrow the hegemony of the men-dominated society. They tend to say, hey, uskaeta so, hey, uskaeta so. Do you know that in other family, when they marry you, right, as women, they give you what they say they are trying to sort of, let you know what are the difficult. They also say they are difficult, but you must koto. They tell you that no, even when there are difficulties, don't do anything. Just stay there. They do that. So I'm calling on women because we are on a women's last month here. That let's start critically examining the fact that this society is skewed. It's skewed. And if you don't stand up, it will remain skewed, because those who enjoy privileges will never on their own say, "Itlankamo share privilege you." It's never like that. So I'm calling on women at the end of this to say, please, even your unity, you see the problem I see all the time, women are not united. Absolutely, man. They form organization after organization here and there. Without that unity to make you to have power, you will never overthrow men in the world. You will never ever. So at the end of it, you have to think very hard, Orbana. Are united, even if you belong to the various mikhatlo. Mikhatlo can come together as an umbrella, but deep. So that is what I want to say also to Sebana. Women, let's try something. Try something. So Josephine understood that, never mind, or she was just 25, She was also a woman. She knew what is the problem there. But ibekezela kasike sisulu. But ibekezela, hey, but Bekezelaing. Now, Josephine also understood when the process of liberation came, she didn't want a liberation which people say, you have the best constitution. No? Now, contrary to that best constitution, just listen, contrary to that best constitution, we are, listen, younger generation, we are the most unequal society in the world. Listen to me. The best constitution, the most unequal society. What nonsense is that? How do you have a best constitution which makes you the most unequal society? What kind of nonsense is that? Okay, I'm trying really to because I'm excited about the struggle of Josephine, and I have to reveal. I have to reveal to you that a best constitution going hand in hand with an equal society in the world is nonsense. So I understand that as Josephine did. So somewhere along this line of freeing ourselves, we were once told, we are living in a rainbow nation. Some of you who are old, you must have seen the people coming to you, hey, you are living in a rainbow nation. But today, when I move around, I don't see that rainbow. If you see it, you must come and fetch me so that I can also see it. I gave on rainbow. I gave on. Now, why is I rainbow you? Why is I it is because, listen, young generation. So it is because rainbows, if you know a rainbow, rainbows by themselves, they disappear from time to time. If you have ever watched a rainbow doesn't stay for weeks and weeks. You can even see it in the morning, in the afternoon it's gone. And I'm not surprised that our rainbow nation has disappeared. Because it was not based on concrete reality. Now, in conclusion, I want to finish by saying, we live now, you, the younger generation, as our only hope. Now, you know why we leave you as our only hope. Runa, we are too old now. All what we are doing now, just listen to me. All what we are now doing, we are now praying every day that Hareshwa, we must be accepted. We are now preoccupied with acceptance because we are going there. And release here with a problem. And that is why I'm appealing to you. And we have no choice. We have to pray so that we must be accepted where young thing. So that maybe Or maybe we'll find something better. Right? So you are our hope. Let me tell you, you are our hope. However, remember, just listen, I want to go now. However, I have also noticed something which I'm going to end up with. You must also go and check whether it is not so. I've now of late noticed that when I am a crook, when I'm a tsotsi, all what I need to do is to form a political party so that ke fumane situlo ko parliament or other provincial or give a councillor, because as soon as I get that stulo, I'm honorable Nefolovodwe. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Chairperson. My children, you are not going to be young forever. You are not going to be young forever. And you won't think it's funny when you're no longer young and all you have ever enjoyed in life was to eat food. And up here, you are empty. All right? There is going to be food here. But you embarrass me when you show, when an elder is speaking to you, that all you can think about is something that this time tomorrow would have been flushed down the toilet. Do you hear what I'm saying to you? This is the chairman of the council of the university. He is the accounting authority. For NSFAS to respect you, for the Minister of Education, Higher Education to respect you, is because of people like him. He's giving you something that will be there long after the food you would have eaten would have been manure. Show some class. Show some dignity. The chairperson of the UL Student Trust Fund is going to deliver the last item on the program today, and he is Mr. Tantora Chidi. He's going to give the vote of thanks, and I really wish, my children, you will not give him a reason to not thank you because you don't behave. So respect your elders, show some dignity, show some class. Class is never loud. You hear me? Class is never loud. Think about it. Mr. Rajit.
It is a challenge to speak after the two presidents. At first, I thought I was going to speak from the heart, but I realized that I had to put something together, else I just go on forever. Program Director, the speaker who have just left here instigated me to advise that this lecture, as well as Umkhubute's lecture, is a product of the trust fund. Program Director, please allow me to acknowledge the Honorable Minister Tokoti Diza and her team, the chairperson of the Council of University of Limpopo, Prophet Jeremiah Nefolovodwe, President of the Alumni and Convocation, Vice Chancellor and Principal of the University of Limpopo, his deputies, head of departments, director of schools, the president of the Student Representative Council and his team, members of the Board of Trustees of the University Trust, university community, our distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. If I've forgotten to mention any one of you, all protocol will be observed. Program Director, the last few months or the last 2 years have been characterized by the huge excitement, anxiety, passion, and all sorts of emotions in preparing for this event. The relief would best this because we have done it. It is encouraging to know that we can analyze, pull together to make things happen. Well, this is the second time that we come together, set aside our. We work together to ensure success. We are the only ones who must implement the objective. Program Director, I will not tire to request for your protection if refocusing this vote of thanks to effect entirely on our late darling, sister, daughter, niece, and a martyr, that is Sekgana Josephine Moshobane. When tomorrow starts without you, Jos, and you are not here to see, if the sun should rise and find our eyes all filled with tears for you, we know how much we love you, as much as you love us. When tomorrow starts without you, please understand that the angel came and called your name and took you by the hand in spite of the way it happened. Josephine, love lives in whispered words, in open arms, in a tender touch. Love lives in little things that stir the heart and mean so much. For a second, you were flying like you always wanted to. Now you'll fly forever in the skies above. Sometimes it is hard to truly express how we feel about you, Jos, as we listen and care and make life easier. And your passing, Josephine, is an opportune great time to let you know how much you are appreciated and loved. It is perfect time to say that for all the moments that makes up a life, the moments spent with you are the ones that are cherished forever. May today, the 31st of August 2023, the end of Women's Month in this year, bring you the memories you treasure and enough joy to last the whole of our lifetime. Before I conclude, let me reflect on the words of President Thabo Mbeki at United Nations University in Tokyo, Japan, on the 2nd of October 2001. I quote, "In terms of human development and education, the plan supports immediate strengthening of the university system across Africa, the creation of specialized universities where needed, and creation of specialized universities of technology." Close quote. This is the realm which you, Josephine, stood for. Be assured of our support of this declaration. For all this, we thank you, Jos. Thank you very much, Togo. Thank you very much, Mahlo. Thank you very much, Motia. Thank you very much, Portia. Thank you very much, Viper. Thank you very much, Pandelani. Thank you very much, Victor. Thank you, one. Thank you all. I thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much, Mr. Achidi. We have come to the end of the program, and we're going to ask you again, remember dignity, grace. You've done very well so far. I appreciate you. We're going to ask management, the family, and the guests to please follow me out of the hall. Show grace, show class, show dignity. I'm going to ask you to allow them to leave, the guests, to where we will take them for their refreshments. Your refreshments will be served here. Don't sing for food. I said, show some dignity. That's why you get exploited, man. So I'm going to ask that the family, the guests, and everybody, management, go to the room where they'll be fed. Your catering will be done here. Morero, where is Morero? Okay, Morero will announce. We're going to try and divide you so that we don't have a crowd at the back looking for food. We're going to divide, take the choir to their own room, you know what I mean? So that way there's not too much traffic where you're going to be catered for. Do not let me hear that you are jostling and pushing and shoving one another for a plate of food. It's below you.